Hi Blackthorns, science today, and hopefully you have just watched the YouTube video that I put up on the links, and so you will have learned a little bit about the moon, 10 facts about the moon. So just to recap, what they said there, it talked about Earth's only natural satellites, and I'm just going to get um, PowerPoint up here. So what they mean by Earth's natural satellite is a satellite is something that orbits the Earth, and what they mean by orbit the Earth means goes round, and it just keeps going and keeps going around the Earth, and that's what they mean by satellite. Goes around the Earth. And the face of the moon that we see every day, we always see the same face. So the side, this side here is always facing the inside of the Earth. So that's what they mean by satellites. There was another fact on there that said that gravity on Earth is 5 times stronger than the gravity on the moon. So um, the gravity pulls us towards the center of the Earth 5 times harder than it does on the moon. So when you see pictures of the moon landings and you see the astronauts walking on the moon, you'll see they float just slightly as they're walking, and that is because the gravity is there, but it's not as strong, and that is because the moon is much smaller than the Earth, so the gravitational pull is much less. So that's that. Also, there was another fact on that clip about how the moon affects our tides. And by tides, what they mean is high tide and low tide. So when you go to the beach and you see the waves and they crash up the beach, and then the water comes right up the beach, and then the water slowly fades back out. That's called high tide and low tide. And that is caused by the moon, and that's caused by the gravitational pull of the moon. So when the moon is coming past, the moon uses some of its gravity to pull the water towards it. So that causes high tide. And then, as you can see from this diagram, low tide is on the other side. So it's high tide where the moon is and the opposite side, and low tide on the top and the bottom. So as the moon goes round, it causes the tides to go high and then low and then high and then low. And I think that's a really interesting fact about how the tides are caused. Now, these are some really important pictures about the moon landings. So back in 1969, which was quite a long time ago now, 52 years ago almost, these were the first 2 men to set foot on the moon. Now, there were other people in the spaceship that went to the moon, but these 2 were the only men that got out. And they're Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. And Neil Armstrong was the very first man to stand on the moon. And as he did those um, 2 famous sayings that Neil Armstrong said during that space mission, and they're really famous now, and we use them all the time. So the first one was, "The Eagle has landed." And what they mean by the Eagle has landed was the Eagle was this lunar module here, which the astronauts came from Apollo 11, which is the spaceship, the rocket, and they got into the lunar module, which was the Eagle, and then the Eagle is the thing that landed on the moon. So when they said the Eagle has landed, they were telling NASA, the American Space Agency, that this lunar module with them inside it had landed safely on the moon. And another really famous saying is this one up here. And as Neil Armstrong stepped onto the surface of the moon for the very first time ever, he said, "One small step for man and one giant leap for mankind." And what he means by that is it's just a small step off of the steps onto the surface of the moon. So it's a small step for him to take, but one giant leap for mankind. And what he means by that is it's a really important advance in space travel and in what people thought could be possible in 1969. So he was underlining, he was realizing the significance of that moment when he stepped on Earth and the importance that it would have going forward for space travel. So, what an exciting film for them to be part of. So, as I said, the Apollo 11 is the rocket that they went to space in, and the Eagle, which is this lunar module here, is the bit that took them from the rocket to the surface of the moon. And that is something that would have taken decades and decades and decades to organise. So it was a really significant moment for NASA, but for the world and for mankind in general. And if you wanted to, there's loads and loads of footage on YouTube. It's quite grainy because in 1969, the camera science wasn't what it is today, but it's a really thrilling thing to watch the first time man steps on the moon. And as you can see in this picture here, you can see the tracks and some of the footprints. And those footprints, as it said in the YouTube thing on the moon that you just watched, those footprints will stay there for millions of years because there's no erosion on the moon and there's no wind on the moon. So they will stay exactly as they are for millions of years, which again is a really interesting fact, I think. I'm going to upload a word search about the moon landings, and you will be able to do a word search based on the information that I've given you. And if you keep in mind the things that we've learnt today, some of them will be included in my quiz on Thursday. So make sure that you try and remember, or maybe rewatch this clip and rewatch the other clip from YouTube about the moon landings and about the moon. Okay, so let me get my other screen up. Where can I see it?